Welcome to LabCast, a podcast about the medical laboratory science profession, brought to you by MedLab Convo. To get notified once we drop an episode, you can do well to subscribe to all our social media platforms at MedLab Convo. For questions, feedbacks, and shout-outs, you can do well to send a mail to at medlabconvolabcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to LabCast. Guess what? This is the second episode for our live section this season. My name is Jesu Teresi, your host, and joining me here is my co-host, Praise.
Good day, everyone. It's great to have you all here. If you're joining us live, thank you so much for spending part of your time with us. And as always, we'd love for this to be a very interactive conversation. So feel free to drop your comments, questions, and thoughts in the chat as we go along. We'll be taking some of them during this discussion. Now, today's topic is one that you've always heard about, and it cuts across every stage of your career, whether you are a student, an intern, a corper, or you're already practicing in the lab, or you're considering opportunities abroad. At some point, you probably have asked yourself, can I really build the kind of life I want through this profession? And that brings me to a question. How much is an hour of your life worth?
Yeah, that's a great question right there, Praise. Think about the years spent in the university, the practicals, the examinations, the internship, the ethic core duties. We can all relate to this. The emergency samples, the responsibility of generating results that influence patient care every single day. So the question still boils down to, what's that 1 hour worth in your life? Recently, in the year 2025, there is a Consilium Nigerian health worker report, and this explored issues around salary, workload, and migration among healthcare workers in Nigeria. Some of the findings were genuinely surprising, right? And we will be talking about them in this episode. So stay tuned, sit back and relax and enjoy this episode because it's about to become really explosive right now. But before we begin, let's take a quick moment to do a game. It's going to be interesting. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm going to be giving you 3 statements. 2 of them are true and 1 is false. So let's see if you can spot the lie. Fact 1. Medical laboratory scientists recorded the lowest hourly pay among all healthcare professions surveyed. Is this true or false? So you should drop your answers right now in the comment section. Fact 2. Dentists earn more than medical laboratory scientists in an hour. Is this true or false? Fact 3. The profession with the highest migration rate was medical laboratory scientists. So drop your guesses in the comments and let's see how many people can get it right. We'll come back to the answers later in the episode.
In fact, I'm expecting to see those guesses because I really want to hope that I'm on the safer side right now. Now, before we begin the discussion, let's introduce our guests. Today, we'll be joined by Olayinka Rofiah Busayo, a medical laboratory scientist. She holds a Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Scientist degree, a master's degree in hematology, HCPC registration in the UK, and ASCPi certification. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, my wonderful host.
Yeah, it's so lovely and a pleasure to have you right here with us. We are really excited to have you with us today. So before we start discussing the statistics, we would love our audience to get to know you better. I'm very sure some of them are anticipating that, who is this person with this profile? Hey, fire. So could you briefly tell us what initially attracted you to medical laboratory science?
All right, thank you very much, my amazing host once again. And before I dive into that question, I would like to appreciate the leadership of the MedLab Convo and the LabCast team for those wonderful episodes. Thank you so much for bringing me in. So, frankly, I would say before I gained my admission, I really did not know what medical laboratory science was. So I initially wanted to go for nursing, but coming from a medium income family, so the fee was actually very exorbitant. So I had to go for something that was lower, and that was how I found myself in the medical laboratory science department. So I won't say it was an attraction. I found myself there.
Awesome stuff. You found yourself there. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this as well. So, was there ever a particular point where you questioned whether you are choosing the right profession?
Absolutely, there has never been any time I questioned myself, because where else would I have been if not in the medical laboratory science department? I've always been very inquisitive, and so this work is more or less like being an investigative journalist. So I love it. So I have never for once regretted finding myself there.
Yeah, like a detective.
Yeah, it's a
You're a very inquisitive type. I'm sure you will really love NLS a lot. So let's reflect back on your journey once again. Looking back, what were some of the realities of the profession nobody ever prepared you for, and it was like a major shock for you along the line?
Well, despite my passion for the job, and despite how much I love the fact that I don't have to see a patient before I know the what is actually happening to the patient, everything behind the scene, I love that fact. But the fact that nobody told me about the compensation, about the fact that I have to prove to people that I must be valued before I got the value. I have to dress like a professional so that they won't be asking me that, are you the scientist? So that my patient can trust me. I have to read far and wide. I have to read outside the textbook so that when I see a result, I'll be able to know, okay, this one is wrong. And everyday calibration. Nobody told me that I have to be calibrating anytime I got an invalid result or an unexpected result. Nobody ever told me. I could remember when we just got to 200 level, we did a particular lecture on what medical laboratory science is in Nigeria. They told us about the juicy part. You can work as a lecturer. You can work as so. They never told us about the payment, about the compensation, about the value, about what they faced on the bench. So they never told us, and even how to get into these opportunities that they were telling us about. They never told us. They never told us about the competition between us and other professionals. They never told us. So these are some of the realities I had to face in the field when I become a full medical laboratory scientist.
Wow. Competition amongst ourselves, even as professionals. Now let's talk about passion over money or money over passion. Let's talk about the issue everyone wants to talk about. That is money. Whenever healthcare professionals discuss JAPA, poor salary usually, dominates that conversation.
Yeah, and understandably so. According to this report, the median monthly salary among respondents was 250,000 naira. Needless to say that among about 86% of healthcare workers surveyed felt their compensation was quite unfair.
And that's almost 9 out of every 10 people.
Exactly. But here's what caught my attention. The report looked beyond monthly salaries and calculated hourly earnings, and medical laboratory scientists came out with the lowest hourly pay among all healthcare professionals surveyed. This is interesting. So yeah, for about an hour, there is 924 naira, and for dentists, however, they earn 1,988 naira per hour. Can you imagine? That's like double the amount medical laboratory scientists earn. So yeah, MLS Olayinka, what was your reaction when you first saw this finding?
Well, thank you very much for bringing this up. To me, I would just say wow, but I'm not surprised. Do you know why? Because I've always been, since I was a student, I've always been hearing that news. There's always been a gap. And we've always been running after the gap, yet it is not closed. So that's the reality of the medical laboratory scientist in Nigeria. So I was not surprised at all, because that has been the system, that has been in place. We only have to keep fighting so that we can get over this.
And looking at another angle of this, Laboratory results. We know that this actually influence so many clinical decisions the physician makes and every other person in the healthcare system. So why does compensation seems to reflect that importance?
Well, most of the time, we are the one that actually feel that we are important, and they also know that we are important. But the truth is the system and the foundation. I could remember a story told by one of my lecturers that back then, when they just started medical laboratory science in Nigeria, we were referred to as the lab guys, the errand guys. So many still believe this. So they expected us to keep working as the lab guys, as the errand guys, while the compensation is low. Another thing is competition. For instance, I go for a job and they said, okay, they're going to pay me 250 or maybe 200,000 naira. Knowing my worth, I said, no, I'm not going to take this job. But another scientist went to take that job for 150K. How do you think they are going to recognize us? How do you think they are going to compensate us? And sometimes we need to create scarcity because every year, thousand of schools they breed new medical laboratory scientists. Where do they want them to work? How many facilities are being created? There is no scarcity. We are too much in the market, and we expect our compensation to be high. I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon. Unless we ourselves, we stand up for ourselves, we value ourselves, we create some form of scarcity. That's when they are going to see what you're actually doing. That's my submission on that.
Yeah, it's a really lovely submission, and I can feel you. But also you mentioned that we ourselves we don't even value ourselves. But do you think others feel the same way? Do you think healthcare administrators fully understand the value of medical laboratory science professionals, what they bring to the table in regards to patient care?
I think some do, but majority do not. It will shock you that many people still think medical laboratory scientists is the same thing as medical laboratory technician and the same thing as science laboratory technology. So many of them, I would see some advertisements, and when I saw the task or the duties of medical laboratory scientists that they wrote there, I would be like, we are much more than this. We do better than this. So I don't think majority of them actually know what to do, and I think they need to do better.
And salary is only one part of the story. Workload is another. Medical laboratory scientists reported a median work of over 60 hours. 50 hours. Doctors reported 60 hours. And we have these temporary and contract workers like the interns and the corp members that were over 60 hours weekly. 60 hours weekly per week. And this just brings us to one of the episodes we talked about, I think last 2 weeks, where we talked about exploitation in the system. Is our interns being exploited, especially when they come to do their internship here in the particular hospital? Are they being exploited, or are they maximizing the opportunity there? So this question is for you, MLS Olayinka. What does burnout actually look like for a medical laboratory scientist?
Well, I would say burnout is actually what we experience every day in the lab. Imagine when you are mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted due to prolonged stress. You'll be in the laboratory doing everything you can just to give out the best results. And at the end, you are being investigated. That's actually the cause of burnout in the laboratory. When you do everything, you calibrate results just to give the accurate and precise result. Yet you are not seen. You are not appreciated. So it affects you mentally, it affects you emotionally, it demoralizes you. Before you know it, you start doubting yourself, you start doubting your ability.
Yeah, and the mental part of itself is a lot. Like it can really be draining. So I really understand, your point there. And so in your experience, what are the major factors contributing to this burnout? And is it common in our profession? These are the audience who can also, answer this question too. But let's please, what's your take on that?
I think because actually this topic being overly worked, like your workload is very high, you are undervalued and you are underpaid. Definitely, you are going to have a burnout. The workload is higher than what your human capacity can carry. After doing that, you are being underpaid. After doing that, you are not seen. You are not important. You are kept in the lab. So definitely you have a burnout.
And the funniest thing is that nearly 90% of healthcare workers surveyed had considered leaving Nigeria. Like almost half were actively planning or already planning or already executing plans to leave. So are you in this 90%? My audience too should please answer. But this question is to Evelyn Olayinka. Are you in this 90%? And what do you think healthcare professionals are? What do you think healthcare professionals are really searching for when they leave?
Definitely.
So we're anticipating your responses, your questions, your suggestions, your experience as you listen along in this episode. Don't just be quiet or be observant. We want your active participation and feedback. So I'm sure most of you can relate to what our guest has been mentioning so far. So yeah, we're anticipating for that.
Okay, thank you very, very much. I think for that question, I would say I'm number one of the 90%. And the reason is because of the issues that I've been mentioning.
Okay, so what do you think healthcare professionals are really searching for when they leave? You are among the 90%. So my question is, okay, what exactly are you looking for when you leave this country?
Well, what I'm looking for is a better standard of living, better pay, better compensation, and value.
Value.
Yes.
Yeah.
True. That kind of sums it up, right? So are there limitations within our Nigerian medical laboratory science system that contributes to these major migration issues?
Okay, well, what I would say is that the number one thing I would say is the immigration policy, and we all can see that far and wide, the immigration policies that are being placed upon Nigerians. And the number two is financial constraint. Imagine how much you have to of your salary you have to put together, the money you are unable to even save that you have to put together. Now putting this together to write all these international exams. So it's not really it's not really easy. Then another thing I would say is after the final, then also the difference in our curriculum. Many people fail most of these professional exams due to the changes in our curriculums. So I think those are actually the constraints we are facing presently.
So yeah, aside this, we also often focus on the professionals who leave like they are the bad guys. But what is the real cost of brain drain to laboratories, patients, and the healthcare system as a whole that contribute to this factor?
For the aspect of the hospital, the impact of this brain drain to the hospital, I would say that most of the time they are going to have lesser scientists. And when there is lesser scientists or incompetent ones, the hospital will not be able to work actively and will not be able to have the outputs that are necessary.